My name is Alex Barsom. I'm a composer currently living in Brooklyn. I'm doing a master's degree at Manus. Currently, I'm studying with Chris Cerrone. Um, and yeah, I was super excited for this opportunity and I had a good time in San Antonio. Generally, I feel best about a piece when I'm first starting it and I have an idea because I'm like, oh, this is cool and exciting. And then as I have to like work through the details of making the music like feel true to the concept, it gets more and more difficult, I guess. Um, and it feels like I'm, you know, struggling to make the like technical connection to like the inspiration. But also it depends like piece to piece. Like there are some pieces where it feels pretty effortless through the whole process. And then there's others where it's like a struggle the whole time. Also, they very often change a lot after working with musicians. I realize it's like, it feels like half the piece is rewritten in some way or another after hearing a performer, work with it, because a lot of times I'm writing for instruments I don't play, or people have their own specific preferences too, and I really want to make a piece work for the specific person I'm writing for. So I think it is very like intrinsically collaborative in that way. The title and program note is like kind of angsty. It's like screaming but not being heard. It's a lot easier for me to like ground myself as I write if it like means something to me. I think a lot before I had been like, I don't know, more afraid, or maybe not even aware enough of it to be afraid, but more like closed off to treating this as like to treating my composition as something as personal as it is. And I think like doing so has been really like helpful. Like it feels like self-therapy or something, it's like very it helps me understand myself a lot better. So if anything, it's like selfishly beneficial. I felt that with people I know and people I love, like a sense that, we're not understanding each other, or I'm not being heard. And I'm sure they have felt that with me too. I'm working on a piece right now that's a song cycle, and the text is like ancient Egyptian poems. And that has been like emotional in its own way because, well, I'm Coptic and both my parents were born in Egypt. And so like, going to that text and also like trying to infuse some musical tradition of Egypt into this piece, and also like music that I grew up with here in the States, has been like a differently emotional thing, in the sense that it's like a process of reconciling with my own identity, and like the
Hmm.
ways in which it feels fragmented and the ways in which it feels uh unique and good. It's opened up a lot of room for me to explore a lot and like widen my palette musically too, because yeah, for example, in this case, it's like I get to explore these different musical traditions and aesthetics, and yeah, I think that's really really beneficial. It's been a lot of like integration of electronics into my music, and like elements of Egyptian folk music and Coptic chant. So like some some modal music, some microtonality, as we would call it, like in terms of Western music's definition, and like some specific signature rhythms that you hear in like percussion instruments in the church, and yeah, I'd say it's a lot of things for sure. I think it's just necessarily like very difficult because I'm figuring it out as I go. So it's very like chaotic and spontaneous and just grabbing things and trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't. I wouldn't say there's exactly a process. I would say it's kind of like trial and error, like shooting in the dark until I hit something. I like accessible music generally, so I end up writing, I feel like, generally accessible music, at least in, the very, very, very diverse pool of, new music. But also I don't know, I like some stuff that's out there and very like, you know, driven by one, like strong and strange exploratory concept. I don't think those two things are necessarily at odds. Like, I think music can be out there, but still accessible. Like, yeah, a lot of music I like tends to have accessible elements with like some grit thrown on top. It's a nice balance, and it just like speaks to me, I guess. And yeah, I think for my own music and like this process of exploring different, musical traditions and elements in my own pieces, it like, again, it tends to be the case that because of, the music I grew up listening to and the music that my parents grew up listening to and that they've exposed me to, and my grandparents, it just tends to be, I think, in some way accessible to some, subsection of the population. And maybe in combining these like different things that are differently accessible, it creates something that reaches a different audience. Maybe it reaches less people. Who knows? I think the only thing that really changes is like making things more like physically doable for players. And that really hasn't gotten much in the way of like like keeping my music wedded to the concept that I had initially, because I tend generally to want players to enjoy playing my pieces. So I like I write kind of within those bounds naturally, and then when things don't work, I spend a lot of time trying to think about how I can still get the idea across, but make it like physically doable or idiomatic for the player. It's going great. It's going really fast, which is scary.
Yeah.
Like, years is so short. But yeah, it's really fun. I'm really, really happy with the school I'm at. I'm at Manus, and I'm really happy with my teacher. I'm studying with Chris Cerrone, who, I mean, he's been also like super, super, super instrumental in helping me to like branch out and explore these new musical ideas and kind of um not be afraid to like try things. So yeah, I think it's been like exactly what I needed when I needed it. There's so much to see all the time, so it's like every night you can find a concert last minute, which is amazing. Honestly, all the composers who are faculty at Manus are like the bulk of my favorite living composers. So like hearing their music around the city and whatever concerts is always amazing. And there are a few ensembles and residents there that are also amazing. Like the Jack Quartet is in residence there, and it's been great to hear them and to work with them, when they like do readings of our pieces. It's so informative. And Sandbox Percussion too. Yeah, it's really cool because they're like great influences musically, and then you get to know them as people, and they are, super kind and generous and great influences in that way too. I am working on this cycle of ancient Egyptian poems, this like a song cycle of ancient Egyptian texts. And I'm also working on Well, we'll see. It's a lot of work, so it might take a while, and I might be answering with the same thing for a while. But I'm working on an opera, like a one-act opera based on the short story "The Yellow Wallpaper" by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So that's super exciting. Yeah, I really like it, and yeah, it's been very daunting but very fun. My girlfriend is a singer, and she actually recommended this text to me. She's an opera singer. Her name's Carmen Adano. She is, mostly works in LA, but she recommended this text to me, and I read it, and I really, really liked it. And then I found librettists through people at the new school. And she also like has long loved The Yellow Wallpaper. So she has been amazing to collaborate with so far. It's cool. It's like very different because there's a super strong like inspiration and like catalyst for everything you write that's just embedded in the fact that like you're working with an existing story. um but yeah, it's really really interesting to collaborate with someone on the text, and thank God I have someone writing the text, because I feel like that would be a disaster if I if I did it myself. And I'm really happy that it's someone who has a close connection to the text, like a personal connection. I've written a lot of vocal music, but I've never written any staged music at all. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Yeah. I mean, in regards to this project, I want to shout out first the people who helped bring this piece to life, who are Alyssa Weinberg, Gabriel Cabezas, Autos Maelstrom, who gave the piece its premiere in New York. And I also, yeah, I of course want to shout out Soli for this amazing opportunity. It's so cool. It was really great hearing the piece, and meeting the ensemble. They're all super nice. It was fun hanging out. I have an Instagram at Alex Barsom if you would like to follow me there. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this interview and want to see more like it, check out the 30 by 30 by 30 playlist on our channel. For more information about the 30 by 30 by 30 project, check out the website linked to the right.